growing economies are in fact in Africa. The question is, why are multinationals mostly the ones to spot the lucrative new markets in Africa? With us to discuss these issues and more is Linda Gobodo, founder of Vuka Africa, and Vuyelwa Nyakaza, she's Khumo Group's managing director. Ladies, a very good morning to the both of you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having us.
Ma'am Linda, perhaps I should start with you. Could you tell us a bit more about what Vuka Africa is?
Vuka Africa is a foundation that was birthed through a burden for Africa. I love this continent. And I traveled, you know how it was before 94. You couldn't go to Africa, you could go to Europe, so I went to West Africa, Nigeria, Ghana, Liberia. And when I saw the state of the nations, my heart was broken. And I cried and I said, something must happen. And you know, sometimes you want somebody to do something about it instead of you doing something about it. And that is how Vuka Africa came about. Vuka Africa heralds and declares a word and a message of hope, of healing of Africa, because Africa needs to be healed, and of restoration of Africa. We want to see a fully restored Africa, a fully developed Africa that will take her rightful place in the nations of the world. And our mission is to call Africa to arise, because exactly what you were saying, why are multinationals seeing the fast growing economies of Africa, and we, the Africans here and in the diaspora, are not doing anything about it? So Vuka Africa calls Africa to arise, to lead this process, to lead her own restoration and to rebuild her own ruins, using their gifts, using their talents, using their expertise to rebuild, reconstruct, redevelop Africa.
So you had this burden, you left corporate world and decided to venture into the unknown, help develop entrepreneurs. Talk us through the process of how you plan to bring about that vision.
How we are going to do it, we are already doing it. I've been traveling in the nations and taking people with me. So we are doing it, one, because it's a campaign to say, awake, wake up, smell the coffee, look around you, see the ravaged Africa, you know, and do something about it, take responsibility. So we do it in song, because we're talking to Africans, in dance, because we're talking to Africans, in word and in print. So we do concerts where we sing the message of calling people to arise. Then we do trade missions. You know, I was on a plane one day going to Nigeria, and I looked around, and the plane was full of multinationals going to take advantage of opportunities. And I said, no, no, no. If we don't do something, we'll be colonized again the second time, but in a different way. Because we have political liberation and freedom, but economic freedom is not there. So I raise young people like Vuyelwa who are gifted, and to say, this is your time to rebuild Africa. Come, let's go.
Speaking on neocolonialism, that's a subject all on its own. That's something that needs a whole show to discuss. Vuyelwa, you're a beneficiary or the fruits of Vuka Africa. Tell us about what your experience has been.
For me, really, Vuka Africa was an awake call. I had a dream. I wanted to do business in Africa, and I thought it's something that's almost impossible. And when I heard the message that actually it's not as difficult as it is, other people are out there doing it, I decided to leave corporate myself with the inspiration of the message itself. I began to travel with Vuka Africa to the trade missions. And in fact, what happened was, one of the missions, I was still in corporate, I actually decided to invest, you know, or at least do like a partnership with a company in one of the countries that we were traveling in Africa. And by that experience, being actually in a mission and seeing the opportunities that are there, and that somebody like me who's sitting in corporate, who knows that, you know, I have a dream, I have the skills, but I did not think it was possible because I did not know the other environment, because my mentality was that I'm not a big corporate, so I cannot go. So Vuka Africa inspires people like ourselves who either are sitting in corporations, we have big dreams, we have big talent, and all of that, but we don't have the mindset to believe that it's
possible. Bound by fear. You're bound by the fear.
Fear, and also the notion of, you know, it looks impossible because if you're a big multinational, you have the capacity. But what about me? I'm an individual. I have a dream, but I don't have the kind of money, the kind of networks that I think a multinational has. But what happens with the missions is that when you actually go, you see the opportunities for yourself. I mean, statistically, over 99% of business outside of this nation of South Africa actually is SMEs, people like myself. So it's not new to them and so forth. So it opens your eyes to see, and the traveling itself, you see the opportunities for yourself, and you're actually able to make use of them.
I still think that's something that we need to do more as South Africans travel broader into the rest of the continent. But Mam Linda, I want to ask you, business in Africa has so many controversial connotations to it, time purposes, etc. Briefly, what have you found about business in Africa, if I could say that, the cliche?
You know what? When you go, it's only then that you discover that it's not what we think. And I want to touch on what you're saying. As South Africans, we need to explore that more. I found that South Africans are so bound that they don't even have passports to just go. So when I'm encouraging people to say, this is a time for you to go and explore opportunities in the continent, you find that people first have to go to get a passport. But now, when you go, we are going to prepare this work. What we do is to find the opportunities first, you know, and then take the people so that they now go to an environment that is already organized, you know, to explore, you know. And you find that, as Vuyelwa is saying, they are working in 2 nations already, you know.
I am so pressed for time because I really would love to discuss this further. As I said, you and I must definitely make a date and sit down and discuss those issues that we spoke about when it comes to colonization through culture, through music, through songs, through products, etc. There's too much to discuss in this limited time. I'm going to ask us to just take a quick ad break, and then we're going to have to say goodbye. In fact, let's say goodbye now because we don't have time for the break in order to do that. But I'm putting my head on the block there. I know my executive producer is listening, so I'm going to twist her arm a little bit and ask if we should have you on a later time, especially just to discuss some of those issues. Let's leave it there for now. Thank you so much for having joined us the last 3 hours of the show. Tomorrow, Leanne will be broadcasting live from Alexandra for our Gauteng election coverage. That area, a place of contradiction as well, right next to the hub of Sandton, and then you find Alex right there. So we'll discuss those issues in just a moment. Tomorrow's show is where you can catch them. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. God bless you.